to do is we're trying to put Roger Goodell on trial. Bottom line is this: if Roger Goodell on trial, there isn't a soul alive that would not attach guilt to him. We don't like the level of power that he has and the ability to exercise. We lament the fact that Roger Goodell has made highly suspect decisions as commissioner of the National Football League with issues pertaining to things such as domestic violence. All of that is true. My retort to that is, who gives a damn? Because in the end, what it comes down to is a CBA agreement that grants him tremendous power to sit up there and attach guilt to you, even if he supposedly doesn't have the authority to do so from a legal standpoint anyway. He's not the court of law, but it's the court of the NFL. And Ezekiel Elliott elected to play in it voluntarily. And at the end of the day, the fact that you are allowed to lean on the opinion of more probable guilty than not is unfortunate, but it's a reality that you have to face if you're a member of the National Football League, because it's something you volunteered to enter. Now we get specifically into Ezekiel Elliott. Here's what I think should be the biggest problem. Excuse me. Here's what I think should be the biggest problem more than anything. I have a problem with the fact that they're investigating issues of domestic violence, but they get to ask him about drug use from his college days. I have a problem with that. Right. Because really, that has nothing to do with the issue at hand. Unless you're telling me that on July 17th, 19th, and 21st of 2016, when 5 separate incidences allegedly occurred, and there was drug use then, what happened in his college career, as far as I'm concerned, is none of anybody's business. It's very, very alarming to me that he even had to answer those questions. It's more alarming to me that cocaine use appears to be something he admitted to, but to a lesser degree, I'm still very, very alarmed that he even had to answer those questions, because that has nothing to do with the issue at hand. It's none of anybody's business now that he's a member of the Dallas Cowboys, and it just seems to me like they're trying to build a case against him as opposed to leaning on a 160-page report that already exists. But ultimately what this comes down to is that we constantly are sitting there and we're looking at Roger Goodell's power. As far as I'm concerned, that's doing the NFLPA's job for them. Collectively bargained, you surrendered this power to him. You can argue about fairness, about capriciousness, or whatever the case may be, to try to get it to the courts. So ultimately, a special master can be implemented into the process, and they can oversee the collective bargaining agreement like has existed in years past. But again, we come back to the NFLPA having forfeited that ability to, or rather that right,
not arguing that,
to the National Football League. And so as a result of it, again, we can lament Roger Goodell's power and his decision making all we want to. But if we're going to do that, we can't let the Players Association off the hook. The real culprit appears to be whether or not Ezekiel Elliott did this. If he did it, he's the damn culprit. If he did it, he's not.
Right, but I'm not arguing that Goodell doesn't have that power. I'm not even arguing here, presently, in this argument, that he shouldn't have that power, although that is questionable. I'm saying that he misused the power, it seems to me. That's the problem here. He has the right, apparently, according to the CBA, and they showed that with Deflategate, to say our standards are higher than the legal system, or lower, depending on how you look at it. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. Simply more likely than not. And what I'm saying is, let's apply that standard to Goodell based on the way he handled this. Either he had the information, they have an investigator, the investigator does their job, it's the investigator's opinion that they shouldn't give Ezekiel Elliott a suspension because she does not find the witness credible. Either Goodell had that information and said no, which has at least the appearance of the idea that the outcome was predetermined, that this had become a news item, and the NFL had to do something lest they look soft on domestic violence, especially given the botched handling of the Ray Rice incident, right? The crime. Because of the way so they have to appear tough. That's what it has, at the very least, the appearance of. Either that was the case, or that critical information never got to Goodell, which means it's a botched investigation or a botched process. But Goodell is on the record, or the NFL's on the record saying, no, Goodell did have the information. So all I'm asking here in the court of public opinion is apply the same standard to Goodell that he applies to the player. We all have that right to say, okay, more likely than not. What's our opinion? We don't need a CBA to say that. And do you think it's more likely than not that Goodell had predetermined the idea that something had to be done? Or is it more likely than not that a fair investigation and due process was carried out and this was the actual conclusion he reached? I would say the former.